Hello and welcome to another Overlord lore video, and again it is one of those videos. Now I have already made up two different hypothetical battles between 1 against Aqua from Konosuba and 1 against Reinhardt from ReZero. But this one is a little bit different. For today, Kalka, the good and just queen, will be compared to Renner, the seemingly golden princess. But first let me say thank you to my Patreons for supporting this channel, and if you're interested in the true nature of Dark Souls, I have made a video that might interest you. Link is in the description. And with that said, let's start with an overview about the background of the two characters, and we will start with the Holy Queen Calca Bessares. First and foremost, she is a powerful holy magic user, somewhere between Fluder Paradane and one of his elite students power-wise. Kalka is a comparably young queen of 25 years of age that ascended to the top of their country by essentially being virtuous. While the support of the strongest paladin Remedios Custodio, one of the 9 colors, and the advice of her more pragmatic sister Kellet Custodio had undoubtedly contributed to Kalka being able to claim the throne. It was ultimately her honest, virtuous behavior, her vision of ending hunger, poverty, injustice, crime, and war in her country that garnered her the support of the common people and convinced Caspon Bessares, Kalka's older brother, to decline his birthright of becoming the Holy King in favor of the first Holy Queen. While all of this was done with the benefit of the country in mind, it greatly angered the southern part of the Holy Kingdom. With the nation divided by a great bay, the two parts needed to be kept in a delicate balance in order for the two to work together. Any shift in power could lead to half of the kingdom gaining dominance over both parts, which would not necessarily lead to a unification due to distance and distrust, but to exploitation of whatever part is inferior at the time. Driven to change the power balance in their favor, most of the southern nobility heavily disliked and distrusted Kalka, and there were even rumors that the still unmarried queen had a lesbian relationship with both of the Custodio sisters, which sounds plausible on paper until you realize that one of them would be Remedios. And I don't take her to be a person that could guard secrets as well as she guarded the Holy Queen. So while Kalka became queen, she is by no means an absolute monarch. And while Kalka acts in the overall interest of the realm and the people within, she is not above using her beauty to her advantage. And she even invented an anti-aging spell for younger, more vital skin. Though this might have been Kellet's idea since she's a more pragmatic-minded tactician, strategist, and advisor. Interestingly, beauty has a measurable effect on people. Aside from more sex appeal, beautiful people tend to be ascribed better moral behavior, intentions, and are seen as overall more competent. And this is part of the so-called halo effect. Like Queen Kalka, Princess Renner is seen as incredibly beautiful, and she is also loved by the common folk, and admired not only for her beauty, but also for her political reforms, earning her the byname of Golden Princess. Thanks to her enduring efforts, slavery was ended in the Kingdom of Riestais. But while Kalka is honestly a good person, Renner is different, to put it mildly. While growing up Renner due to her intellect, she couldn't relate to anybody. Her ideas were ill understood by her surrounding or brushed aside altogether. This disconnect at an early age led to Renner developing anorectic behavior as a coping mechanism, and it wasn't even clear if Renner would make it to adulthood, until she found Climb, a boy of common descent on the verge of death. His eyes, the way he looked at her, full of honest admiration and adornment, sparked, let's call it love. But since Renner is damaged, this love manifested as something between a very unhealthy obsession and a fetish, since Renner fantasizes about him being chained up like a dog, unable to escape. And in a sense, he is already her dog, since Climb acts as the personal bodyguard of Renner, and also represents her on the battlefield. In contrast to Kalka, Renner, at least thus far, hasn't shown any magical or martial abilities, but she is very good at acting in her Golden Princess persona. Furthermore, and in similar contrast to Kalka, Renner lacks any real political power. As the third princess, both of her sisters were already married for political reasons, with Renner also likely being already promised to somebody from the noble faction, since there was a mention about a certain noble that looked at her like he already owns her. So while the Kingdom of Rhys dies, like the Holy Kingdom, is divided between two opposing political factions, the Royalist faction centering around King Ramposar and the second son of him, and the noble faction wanting to install Prince Barbaro, a good-looking, strong, tall, but politically absolutely inept prince, as the new king in order to control him. Neither of the older brothers would support Renner on the throne, or even consider such a proposition. So Renner, in stark contrast to Kalka, has little to no direct political influence, and heavily relies on the gravitas and authority of other persons in order to advance her goals. And since her only real allies, the adamantite adventurer Team Blue Roses, lacks any direct political influence, and is in fact even forbidden by guild rules from directly supporting Renner, there simply is no direct way for Renner to get what she wants. And after the death of the older brother Barbaro at Lupus Regina's hand, the younger one had already taken over the day-to-day government affairs, since King Ramposar was unable to lead the country. Judging by his look after the massacre at the Cat's Plain, the king's mental health was greatly damaged, and his body seems to follow his mind. But it is also unlikely that Prince Zenek will reign for long. Not only is the newly founded Sorcerer Kingdom about to invade, even before the founding of Ainz's new realm, the Great Tomb of Nezarick was already allied to Renner, or rather it made Renner an incredible valuable pawn. Remember, Renner's aim was never to bring everybody happiness and joy. She only pretended to be a good person in order to satisfy Climb, going so far in her act as to propose laws and economic reforms at the most disopportune of time, in order to show Climb what a supposedly good person she is, as well as gaining a pretext to get more attention out of him, by pretending to be devastated every time her ideas were turned down. Renner tries everything to bind Climb closer to her, and to push any competition out of the way, and her keen understanding of the many intrigues at court, and about where certain spies are, and what she needed to tell them, was so great that she was able to indirectly murder the slaves Climb saved from the horror brothel by telling one of the maids/spies where the rescued slaves were currently at. Climb, and pretty much the rest of Rhys Ties, utterly lacking the ability to see through the complex plans and plots, has no other choice as to perceive Renner as a genuinely good person, and he wants nothing more than her to be happy, and to be with her. But here's the problem: since Climb is a mere commoner, and Renner is a princess, the society in general, and the current divide between nobility and the king in particular, would not allow for a love match to happen. To put it simple, Renner's goal is Climb, and she will reach it by any means necessary, no matter the cost. So while Queen Kalka is able and willing to compromise, in order to keep the balance between the north and the south intact, Renner, in order to achieve her goal, must destroy the noble faction and take over the royal one. And this is what truly distincts the two: the willingness to make sacrifices and break laws, and any moral code necessary to achieve their goal. This becomes obvious when confronted with a rather problematic challenger. Both Renner and Kalka were confronted with Demiurge in the disguise of Yaldabaoth, and an incoming invasion. But Demiurge, being a highly intelligent being, blessed with demonic wisdom, was able to figure out Renner's true personality simply by receiving observations about the way she acted and presented herself. Acknowledging Renner's moral flexibility, her real Machiavellian personality, and possibly noticing her ability to govern, that is unmatched even by Albedo. He and Albedo decided to make her a pawn. And curious enough, Albedo seems to like her, with the two even discussing their respective obsessions, and Albedo even called Renner a heteromorph in spirit, due to her amoral pursuit of her own goal. So one could take away from this that a good person, a genuinely good person, would never distrust her friends or even hurt them, and therefore a more moral flexible person would only need to pretend to be good, while offering potential evil adversaries a reason to ally with them, and since Renner sneakily displayed her value as a lawmaker/economist, the Empire of Baharut, for example, wanted to keep her alive, despite Emperor Jerknev's personal dislike for her. So Renner, like Littlefinger in Game of Thrones, managed to play all sides, and with her being able and willing to use any situation to her own advantage, she may ultimately survive and reign the Kingdom of Rheastais as an underling of the Sorcerer King. A position comparable to an area guardian, so while Renner will likely eventually take over Rheastais and rule it to the best of her abilities in order to maintain Climb's image of her, as well as to stay on good terms with the Sorcerer Kingdom, at the very end, the general populace might be better off after suffering through a brief demonic invasion, a single decisive defeat, and an all-out invasion that will be the topic of the 14th novel. This, despite being horrible, is overall a better outcome when compared to what already has happened to the Holy Kingdom. Similar how the Kingdom of Rheastais will be invaded by the Sorcerer Kingdom, the Holy Kingdom already has been invaded by Demiurge in the disguise of Yaldabaoth. However, instead of it being a brief incursion, with the aim of punishing and subduing the Eight Fingers, a powerful crime syndicate that was at the very least able to threaten the royal family in person, the Holy Kingdom faced a full-on demon-led beastman invasion. The people of the northern half of the kingdom were imprisoned in what can only be described as happy farms, a demon-governed prison where prisoners are repeatedly skinned alive. And the Liberation Army also suffered great losses in their fight against Yaldabaoth. And now the ruined north is not only powerless against the as of yet untouched south, but this constellation, along with the doppelganger Holy King in place, will inevitably lead to another bloody civil war that will only end when the Sorcerer Kingdom yet again invades and pacifies the nation by any means necessary. So in addition to suffering even greater than the kingdom had, the Holy Kingdom will likely face everything the Kingdom of Rheastais will have to endure in the 14th novel, and a devastating civil war on top of it. So while Renner was able to make a compromise with Demiurge, and in turn gain power and her life's goal, Kalka, the Holy Queen, who compared to Renner had it easier in life, was due to her staunch ideals unable to compromise and thereby defend her country. And I'm not only talking about a pact with Demiurge, but about the ongoing religious conflict with the theocracy, and the unwillingness of Kalka to sacrifice the well-being of a few in order to ensure the survival of the many, also reflected strongly on Remedios, who refused to sacrifice the life of a few hostages in order to allow her liberation army to free an entire city. And on a national scale, the Great Wall, while being a strong deterrent, would even without Demiurge's interference fail to keep the nation safe, for the very reason that with most of the populace, both men and women, serving in the militia, the economy would collapse before the invading army could even be halted, and the war won. The pragmatic solution to this situation would be to reject religious dogma and some moral principles in order to mend the damaged diplomatic relationship with the slain theocracy. Without the religious differences, the state of the six great gods would likely help the young queen in her endeavor to secure the western border of the kingdom. With a combined effort of the scriptures, the Paladin Order, and the Adventurer Guild, the Abalian Hills could have been pacified before Nezarick even arrived in the New World. With this direct threat destroyed, and a powerful ally gained, Kalka could have then focused fully on strengthening the economy and thereby achieving her ideals. But Kalka's unwillingness to abandon or at least alter her moral code, and if necessary suppress dissent among the religious populace by force, bribes, or really any means necessary, meant that the Holy Kingdom stayed without the theocracy's aid, and thereby was left vulnerable to a total defeat. In Overlord, sometimes small atrocities are required in order to prevent larger ones, and good intentions might not necessarily lead to good outcomes. And with that said, thank you very much for watching, and special thanks to Al Capone, Andy, Angel of Death, Bad Guy E, Boyzilla, Diabetic Centaur, Dystopia, Phalis Catus, Gigafight, Hector Moreno, Hoss, Jason, Chromius, Lord Touch Me, Lord Ulbert Elaine Oddle, Marcos, Mr. Shoes, Minnow 13, Meritis, Primus 11, Sasuga Einsama, Sebastian, Serge, Sparkly Unicorn, and Vash Hawkeye. Thanks guys. Anyway, have a nice day, over and out.